Good afternoon, students. Welcome to Agricultural Education 3, which is BES Age42 for 2019 contact classes. My name is Abraham Sholongera and I'm the tutor for this module. If you have got any questions regarding this module, I would like you to contact or feel free to contact me on 081 44 38 360. So that's my number, and as you can see it on the screen, or you may just personally email me at septembervictory@gmail.com. So once again, I say welcome to Agricultural Education 3. I wish you all to be hardworking, dedicated, and self-driven students in this course. This presentation covers subject content in brief and some general guidelines that I want every one of you to keep in mind when you are preparing for 2019 examination. I will discuss some of the contents of your study guide in order to help you prepare for the coming exams. So I say some of the content of your study guide, meaning that I'm not going to cover everything today, as the time that we have is limited. And by now, I believe that you should have a good idea of what the subject is all about, as you have completed your assignment already. Please note that, as I've already said it earlier, please note that I cannot give attention to the whole content. So should you have any question, please contact me for help. I have already provided my contact details on the screen. Please just take notes of that. And the following presentation that I'm about to give you will highlight some important aspects and unit for this module. I urge you to use your study guide very carefully to prepare for your examination. Let us now look at the general issues in agriculture as one of the most important aspects in this subject that I want us to discuss this afternoon. So I want us to understand the danger of wrong agricultural practice on the conservations and productivities of soil, the main strategies of controlling soil productivity is mainly through controlling erosions, and these are to use land in accordance with its capability, and also to protect the soil surface with some form of cover, and also you need to control runoff before it develops into an erosive force. So these are some of the strategies of controlling soil productivities, mainly through controlling these types of activities. And now let us look at how soil erosion can also be controlled. So there are various ways by which soil erosion can be controlled. For example, the first one is the land capability, and this has to be done like when selecting the land to use for agricultural purposes. Avoid land with vulnerable soil type and land slopes. Do not use the land that have too many slope, because the slope have an impact of when the running of water. So this will cause a lot of washing away of the soil, and it will also wash your crops and vegetables away. Now another one is the surface cover. Like adequate surface cover controls erosion because it reduces the erosive effects of raindrops falling on bare soils and the ability of winds to remove soil particles. And then runoff if you can manage the runoff to spread rather than to concentrate on a particular ground surface, water erosion will be reduced. This can be done by use of contour banks. So contour, as you can see there, I have attached a picture there that you can look at on contour banks and how contour banks are used to control water erosions. So contour banks reduces the risk of water erosions in more especially in the hilly cropping areas. So in most cases, the contour banks, they are designed to reduce the volumes and also the speed of water flowing over the land, and also to help to stop the erosion processes. So that's why it's very important to make these contour banks, more especially in the areas that is more hilly or that areas that are slopey. So contour banks will be the best practice to do in order to control or to reduce the risk of water erosion. Now, in addition to this issue, I want you to go in your study guide and then you read and understand factors that influence soil erosion in agriculture. There are also factors that influence soil erosion in agriculture. I want you to go in your study guide and pay more attention on those factors. And also, I want you to understand how to handle a disciplinary situation in the class. As a teacher, how will you go about it? So go in your study guide and read and understand these concepts. And I also want you to, in your study guide, there is also one crucial part that I want you to pay attention on or to read on your own and understand. So I want you to understand the 3 learning styles adopted by learners. And we have 3 of them, those 3 learning styles that are adopted by learners. We have the visual learning style, we have the auditory learning style, and then you have the kinesthetic learning styles. So as we know that our learners, they have got different styles of learnings. Some, like when it comes to visual, we know that some learners learn very fast just by seeing something. So just by having a look or seeing more of it, then they can learn more easier. And some of them, they can also learn just by hearing or by listening. They are good at that, and then they can pick up more and understand the subject more by hearing. And some, they can learn more by touching or by feel when they are more exposed to the subject or the tools or to the concept more physically, and then they also speed up their learning style or behavior. So I want you now to go more in details and study this type of learning style that are adopted by learners. So this one, as a teacher, it can help you also to understand what type of learners that you have in your class. General issues in agriculture, again, as we continue with this aspect. So I want us also to look at something to the most prominent projects and their purpose in different parts of Namibia. So in Namibia, we have some recognized projects, and in this project, they also serve a bigger purpose in Namibia. And I want you to take note of these projects in Namibia and to understand them. Even in your study guides, you go and read and understand these projects. They are very common and they are well-recognized projects within the Namibia environments. So the first project that I want us to look at is the Green Scheme. So this one is an initiative conducted by the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Forestry, mainly based on the development of irrigation-based agronomic production. So we are also having another project, or the irrigation scheme, which is a Tunda irrigation scheme, which is more than 600 hectare farm located at Ruakana there in Umsati region. And it has both commercial and small-scale farming activities based on maize productions on a 3 hectare of the land. and also wheat, vegetables on the rest of the hectares. Now, which means that maybe the remaining 300 hectare, so they farm with wheat, vegetables also on, so that space is being utilized for that. Now, vegetables that are being produced commercially on that farm or in a tunda, for example, we have potatoes, cabbage, and then onions, and we also have melons and also bananas at a tunda irrigation farm. Now, these are cultivated seasonally throughout the year by small-scale farmers that are allocated to look after the farm in a tunda irrigation project or scheme. So these are all the initiatives of the government through the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Forestry. Now, another one is also in the north, and that one is also known as Omahenene project. It's also in the north, situated in the Msati region. This is a project mandated to maintain the breeding of released and pre-release crop varieties in Namibia and for the foundation seed production. Now, so the main purpose of this project, or the main purpose of Omahenene research project, is to maintain a system of seed production of improved varieties. For example, the pear, millets, and sorghum as major crops, and also cowpea and barbara groundnuts, to ensure timely sustainable supply of good quality seed to communal and commercial farmers. So another project or scheme that we have here in Namibia is also the integrated initiative in support of urban and peri-urban horticulture development project. So this project is run by the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Forestry also, and it is aimed at improving the lives of people in and around the towns and cities of unemployed or underemployed citizens. Now, the main purpose of this scheme or project is mainly to involve these communities in a national effort to guarantee food security or to ensure food security, and also to produce higher quality fresh horticulture produce at household level all year round, and also to promote employment and wealth creation for the less endowed or for the less privileged population in the urban and pre-urban environment. Now, we also have another one, which is now the Kalimbeza or the Kalimbeza Rice Project. So we all hear about these things. If we watch news, we all hear about this type of project, this type of initiative that the Ministry of Agriculture have just initiated in order to increase agricultural production in Namibia. So the Kalimbeza, this project is at Kalimbeza in the Caprivi region. So, and it is aimed at broadening food supply by growing dry land rice on flood plains. So I want you to go to your study guide, study this recognized project in Namibia, and also understand their activities and the main purpose that they have to serve the community. So we also have different aspects of plant production. So looking at the cost and the benefit involved in controlling plant diseases and pests. So I want you to know that there are benefits and there are also costs that are involved in controlling plant disease and pests. So I have also displayed them here on the screen, but for not to waste time, you can also go in your study guides and also refer to this cost and the benefits that are involved in controlling plant and disease. So when you are controlling diseases and pests that are affecting plants, so it is also costly, and yet it's also benefit. They have also some benefits on it. So I want you to go in your study guide and read more and understand on these costs and benefits. And I also want you to understand the common plant diseases and parasites that attack plants, and also reason for keeping different breeds of sheep and dogs. And I also understand that really some of these, since when you come to this level of agriculture education 3, most of these things we have already covered them in agriculture education 1 and 2, so they are not that new to you. So, and I want you to go back again to your study guide and also understand the reason for keeping different breeds of sheep and goats, and also understand the common plant disease and parasites that attack plants. And also I want you to understand the pertinent step you need to follow when you want to set up a small bee enterprise, and also to focus on the basic need for watering plant and the costs that are involved. In all these things, I believe they are in your study guide. So if you have got any issue that you don't understand anything or you can't find them, and then you can, or feel free to contact me and I will assist you. So different aspects of plant production. So let us look at or compare that there is a difference between photosynthesis and respiration. And we also have difference between asexual reproduction and sexual reproductions. So this type of comparison or similarities of asexual reproduction and sexual reproductions, I think and I believe that they are quite simple, and they are also in your study guides. You can go through your study guides and find out the difference between photosynthesis and respirations. They are not really that the same, so they are different. They have got different functions. For example, when you talk about photosynthesis, photosynthesis occurs in the presence of light, and respiration occurs at all times in cells. So it does not really need light or whatever, but you know that photosynthesis cannot take place without light. So it goes on. So you can go in your study guide and have a good understanding of the difference between these processes in the plant production. So the photosynthesis and the respiration, and also asexual reproduction and sexual reproductions. So let us also look at the different aspects of sheep and goats farming and marketing. Looking at the common nutritional disorders or problems to watch out for in sheep and goats. So there are some common nutritional disorders or problems that one or a farmer need to watch out for in sheep and goats. And one of these disorder or problem that one need to watch out for is the bloating. Or where you say that sometimes bloating sometimes afflict sheep or goats that are grazed on lush growing legume pastures. So bloat is a build up of gases in the rumen. You know, like when you are bloating, or when the stomach of an animal is bloating, it's when a lot of gas has been built up or has been accumulated in the rumen, and then that causes the bloating of the stomach, or maybe one part of the stomach, and this can lead to death if not properly treated. Now, bloat is caused by rapid fermentation in the rumen, and is mostly common associated with the rapid consumption of large quantities of green legumes. That green legumes is very much dangerous to sheep and goats when they are being consumed in a large quantity, and this causes now a lot of gas being built up in the rumen, and that now, because of the fermentation that is taking place, and it will cause to bloating and also death of an animal. So animal that is suffering from bloating can be treated by various means, but the best solution to this problem is to prevent the condition by carefully management of feeding and grazing practices. We say prevention is better than cure. So to avoid the whole process is to make sure that, or to proper management of feeding and grazings are properly practiced. Now, the best way to prevent bloating is also to keep small ruminants from overeating on lunch legume pastures. This can be accomplished by introducing the small ruminants gradually to such pastures. That means maybe just gradual for a certain period of time, but not like continuously they are feeding on that pastures. Then also, you need also to limit the time they spend in the pasture and feeding grain or dry roughage before turning into the pasture. A second nutritional problem also of sheep and goat is called grass tangers or grass tetany, or sometimes you call it muscle spasmus. Grass tetany is characterized by trembling and sometimes convulsions and death of an animal if it's not properly treated or not immediately paid attention to. Now, this condition most often occurs when small ruminants are turned into grass pastures and is caused by a deficiency of magnesium in the forage. Grass tetany is most common where soil have low level of these nutrients, like when the soil does not have enough magnesium, and then the grass or the grazing pastures that is there will lack or does not have enough magnesium. Now, magnesium can be added to the feed if it is not sufficiently enough on the soil. Then it can, meaning that the feeds, they can be supplemented with magnesium, especially to that of lactating small ruminants. Rotating animals between legumes and grass pastures may also help prevent both bloating and grass tetany. Now, I want you also to take note of or to read and understand the reason for keeping different breeds of sheep and goats. Remember that it is also beneficial, or there is also main reason why do we keep different types of breed and goats. So I want you to go on your notes and read and understand why sometimes it's good, or the reason of keeping different breeds of sheep and goats. Because different breeds of sheep and goats, it also depend on the have got an impact or influence on the environments where they are grazing. I just want you to pay attention on the common diseases and also common pests on sheep and goats. So we have common, so we just have common diseases and common sheep, common pests that affect diseases. So I want you to go to your study guides and pay more attention on those diseases or pests. Now, let us look at the different aspects of sheep, goats farming and marketing again as we are continuing. I want you to understand the main objectives, importance and the values of record keeping in agriculture and animal productions. So when you go to your study guide, I want you to understand the main objective, understand the importance and the value of record keeping in agriculture and also animal productions. But the main issue that I want us to look at is the performance indicators that can be calculated from well-kept records. You know, when you keep your, if your records are well kept and well maintained, then there are some performance indicators that can be calculated from there. For example, from the records that you have kept, one can calculate indicators like the calving percentage. Maybe, for example, maybe the percentage of calving, you can able to calculate or to identify that percentage if you have got well kept records in place. And then also the winning percentage. This you want to find out maybe how many percentage of winning, how many cows were winned during out the year or throughout the year. Weaning means that how many calves, for example, were removed from their mothers. And then also hatching percentage for chickens. This can also tell you maybe, for example, how many chickens were hatched or how many eggs were hatched, just for, then this can help also for proper, you want to find out, it's also for financial status of the farms of productivity. Then also we have feed conversions efficiency. Then we can also calculate gross margin profits. You can also calculate net profits and many other indexes of interest depending on the animal you are dealing with. So these are some of the indicators that can be calculated, but in case if your records are well maintained or well kept. I also want us to understand the step that you can follow in establishing your farm business. So there are some steps that one can follow when you are establishing your farm businesses, step by step. So I want you to read and understand that, and also understand the basic need and the want you may get from plants. Then also the aspect of fish farming. So in these modules, we are not only talking about the vegetable production or fish and sheep and goats, but we also have the aspect of fish farming. So under the concept of fish farming, I want us to understand the main requirements of your fish before setting up a simple aquarium and methods of harvesting and preserving fish. It's very important that there are requirements of your fish before you set up a simple aquarium. So what are the requirements there that you need to put in place, or things that you need to consider before set up an aquarium or just a simple aquarium at your home? Then we can also look at the benefit and costs that are involved in feeding fish. For example, you say feeding the fish well will also allow it to satisfy its nutrient requirement for maintenance, or for maybe to maintain its life processes. Fish have the highest feed conversion efficiency compared to other livestock species because they also require extra care. So it is feed conversion ratio in well-fed population is about 1:1. For comparison's sake, that of chicken is 2:1. For pigs is 4:1. And for cattle is 8:1, just to compare now the feeding ratios. So then feed conversion ratio as a measure of feed utilization efficiency is the amount of feed in kilograms, for example, maybe dry matters basis, required for 1 kg gain in the animal's live weight. Now also I want to understand ways by which common fish parasites can be prevented and controlled. So I want you to your study guide and understand common fish parasites. There are also parasites that affect fish. I want you to understand them, and also how can they be prevented and how can they be controlled. And also understand also the method of harvesting and preserving fish. How to prepare for your exam in 2019. I have some tips for you on how to prepare for your exams. So when you are preparing for your exam, ensure that you have all the study material or resources required for these modules. Please ensure that you spend enough time reading the prescribed materials and to follow the instruction carefully, so as to ensure that you do not waste unnecessary time and effort. Take time to first acquaint yourself with the content of the module by reading through the material carefully. I also want you to make sure that you understand the verb used very well. These verbs are well described or well explained in your study guide. These verbs are, for example, define, clarify, discuss, or describe. So go in your study guide and understand the meaning of these verbs so that you are able to approach, or you know how to tackle your questions during your examinations. Always pay attention to the marks allocated to each question and answer accordingly. So before you answer the question, you look at the marks that are allocated to the questions in the brackets, and then you answer according to the marks. So I want to point out something here. So because most of the time students are intimidated by the number or maybe by the space allocated, or the space or the line spacing for answering your questions. So the space provided should not intimidate you. So if the question is saying maybe it's 10 marks and the line spacing provided is almost 1.5 pages, that does not mean that you need to complete all the lines. So for you all you need to do is just to answer according to the question and also according to the marks that is provided. The reason why sometimes the space provided is quite large is because the handwritings of people is totally different. Some people they write in big letters, some people they write in small letters. So you can also use that space maybe in case you made an error and then you erase some of the information that you wrote down. There's still some enough space for you to rewrite your correct answer. So that can be the main reason of providing some extra space on there to answer your question. So and that does not necessarily mean that you need to fill up the whole space. So, and also take note that never leave any question unanswered or blank. I always tell students there is no wrong or right answer. Make sure that you know what you think sometimes can be the correct answer. So don't leave a question just blank without an answer. So put something there. What you are thinking sometimes might be the correct answer. Because if you leave the questions blank or unanswered, now we tutors or teachers, when sometimes trying to help you to pass the module or to look for an extra mark for you, sometimes it's difficult for us to do so because we have just nowhere to get that mark from. Because most of the questions that we have left there blank. So I urge you, please make sure that you put something on the question. And also revise your assignments and ask your tutor if you have any problem. So I am your tutor, and if you have got any problem in your preparing for your assignment, or when you are preparing for your exam, or when you are going through your notes or your study guides or your study materials, please feel free to contact me. I am available. And if you are not sure of the material or the study guide that you are using, that is the correct one, please you can call me to verify and confirm that the study guide that you are using is the correct, or the material that you have, they are the correct materials for these modules. Now, I want you to enjoy these modules, and I want to say good luck with the assessments through the assignments and the examination, which is part and parcel of your studies. And as I always say, that perseverance is the hard work you do after you get tired of doing the hard work you already did. So we have come to an end of our conduct class for 2019. As I said that I have just given you some of the topics that I think they are important for us to cover for 2019, but other topics or other units are also relevant as well for you to prepare for your exams. And it's only because I do not have enough time to cover the whole content of these modules, but I'm urging you, please go through your study manuals and study your notes and understand most of the issues that we have discussed here this afternoon. So once again, feel free to contact me, feel free to call me. I will always be available to assist you as your tutor. Thank you very much, and all the best for your upcoming examination.